just tell us a little bit about what Bioshock is?
Well, Bioshock, we're trying to make pretty much the shooter 2.0, as we said inside there. We believe like the shooter genre's gone a little stale, so we want to give the community a shooter that has the same depth of gameplay as an RPG, the same fright as a scary horror game, and the same intensity in action as a shooting game.
Can you tell us a little bit about the world and what kind of world the player is set in?
Well, the general setting is it takes place in this underwater city called Rapture, and it's not a bubble. It's not like from the abyss, a small station. It's actually this glorious city full of skyscrapers, all connected, all built underwater, and it was built down there in the 30s. So it has very Art Nouveau, Art Deco architecture style, and it was built by these idealists who were pompous. They thought that they can build this beautiful place made out of marble and wood underwater, rather than your typical steel submarine. We wanted for our game to not have the warehouse or military base setting. We wanted to have something that is memorable. It was a challenge because in this day and age, every game has beautiful graphics. Even lesser known games, the popular games, they all look great. But what's going to separate our game from those is just the general art direction and this aesthetic that we've been aiming for.
The enemies and the creatures that live in Rapture are very special. Can you tell us a little bit about the creatures?
Well, it's actually kind of funny because we've iterated on the design so many times. So, at first, Bioshock was, it's about mutation, and how much you lose your humanity. So there were crab men and fish guys running around, and really, it's just not scary. If you compare like a lot of enemies, Freddy Krueger compared to Jack Nicholson in The Shining, Jack Nicholson is more scary because you can connect to him. He's human, or he's lost his humanity. And so the citizens of Rapture, who once everything went downhill, they had to mutate themselves to survive, and they lost their humanity in the process. And so they became monsters, but they looked just like an everyday person, and that's more scary because when you start playing, you put yourself on that path to survive. You have to use these plasmid powers. You have to mutate yourself and go along the same path they did. So as you go throughout the game, you slowly become one of them, and that is frightening. The city was built in like the late 30s, early 40s, but the game takes place in the late 50s, early 60s. 20 years after it was formed, maybe a few years after everything, after the society crumbled down there. You as the player, you basically at the start of the game, you wake up and you're underwater. Maybe 20, 30 feet underwater, and you look up and there's flames on top. And as you come up, you realize you were just in a plane crashed in the middle of the ocean, a sole survivor. And so as you're swimming out there, you come across this lighthouse in the middle of the ocean. It shouldn't be there, and as you explore, you find this bathysphere that brings you down to this beautiful city that's unheard of. No one knew about it, and you can only go down there. You're stuck in the ocean otherwise. But once you go down there, you realize the place is falling apart. The society's crumbled, and so your goal is to survive, both to survive and to find a way out of there, so you can get out. Get back to the surface and find a way to get home. But while you're down there, without spoiling the story, you pull into this whole big conflict, and you discover pretty much what happened down there.
What kind of methods do you use to put the scare into the player?
One of the things we try not to go with is the gimmicky, shadows popping out. We try to go with immersion. We want to make you feel like you're actually in this world. Like the character as you're playing could be you. We don't attach a name. We don't attach a specific, a specific story to the character himself. So that draws you in. The environment draws you in, and also just the people. It seems authentic. It seems real. And so we go for that method, We don't try to go for the pop scare. We try to make the player feel immersed, feel like they're part of the world, so what's happening in the world is actually directly affecting them. And that's where we get the pressure and the intensity. We also use hunger in gameplay. Following the vein of System Shock 2, you barely had enough scraps to survive. You had one bullet left, or just a little bit of health left, and we're trying to follow that vein with Bioshock as well. So you're scrounging and you're digging just to get the basic necessities that you need just to get further along on your path and on your story.
So apart from the guns, you have a system of superpowers called Plasmid. Can you tell us a little bit about those and what kind of powers can you get in the game?
Sure. That's basically the RPG side of the game in a way. Your plasmid powers are self-mutations. Fictionally, the story, the society, when they discovered the ability to mutate themselves, they would make themselves smarter, faster, stronger, so they can be better at what they did down there. And they got further and further along this technology. So now in the game, you have these different powers, and like some we demonstrated, you can use it to trick people. You could use powers as weapons. Use powers to make yourself stronger, more durable, or faster, as we showed in the demo. There's a bunch of different tracks. You can interact with the environment with those. You can actually have plasmids that make use your weapons better, or a lot of obscure plasmids that manipulate the environment and use it to your advantage.
So what's your take on multiplayer in a game like this?
It's really tough. I mean, we did co-op for System Shock 2, and it took a lot of time, a lot of effort, and it really didn't add too much to the game. So we wanted to focus on making a really good single-player game. And in this day and age, you really can't do both unless you have two separate teams and treat them as two totally different games. So we wanted to tell a good story, make a great single-player game, and we decided we can go without multiplayer for that. And there are other great multiplayer titles out there to play instead.
You've announced PC and Xbox 360 version. Are you looking at PlayStation 3 as well?
I mean, we'd like to. We have nothing official right now. I mean, we want to get out of as many SKUs as we possibly can, but it waits to be seen what else it might come out on.
So the PC and Xbox 360 version, will there be any differences between the different?
We're trying to treat them like two separate SKUs. I mean, of course, they'll be the same level, same environments and powers and all the tools, but it's very different when you're playing with a controller or a mouse. So when we know that, so we're going to have two different interfaces. And they're actually being done in separate studios. Our Australian Irrational is doing the PC, whereas Boston's doing the 360 version. That way, each team can focus on their target platform solely.
Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.
Hey, no problem.